Hi viewers, I'm here today at Tech Time to tag you a very beautiful personality who is vibrant like colors as her passion, as her work is seen vibrantly beautiful. She is very a big contributor to our political scenario in Canada. Where she was born and how she did this journey, it's an interesting part. Her background to her latest situation, all is full of colors to contribute and to tell you the story that this country offers us so much. Yes, I'm talking about our very famous, very beautiful Salma Ataullahjan. She's our senator. Welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Salma ji, I always start my show with all the people because I feel like people want to know the personalities like you, where they were born and how they feel and how they ended up here, their childhood, their education and their career.
I was born in Mardan, in what used to be Northwest Frontier, now called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And my education, I went to a boarding school in Murray called the Convent of Jesus and Mary, and that's where I had my initial education. And 9 years in the boarding school, I think, which is what kind of has molded me into what I am. It was Irish nuns, and there was great emphasis placed on how you carry yourself, what you do, how you speak, how you behave. And then I was in Peshawar, did my FA and got married, and then came to Canada.
So it's a huge decision, and the part of the world you belong to is very much known for the women right issue, as we see Malala Yousafzai is also from there. So what, as a woman, was your experience to learn and to be what you are today?
Well, unfortunately, not only in KPK but throughout Pakistan, once you step outside of the big cities, the women do not have, the rights equal to men. They don't have access to education. They don't have, access to health. I'm not talking about the big cities. I'm not talking about the wealthy people. I'm talking about the average, Pakistani woman. But I think I have seen a change in the past few years, not so much in KPK, but in Punjab, where I'm very happy. Like, I go back every year. I've been in Canada for 35 years, but I go back every year, sometimes twice a year, because I do not have family here in Canada. And I've seen the women, they're beginning to work, they're getting out into the workforce. And I'm seeing it in KPK in the sense that they won't be working in the stores and things, but they are, as teachers and as doctors and lawyers and as judges. I am seeing that, and in the army too.
So what is your inspiration? Usually when a child is growing up in a family which is so rich politically, inheritance is so strong. So to lead them towards a certain path is always an inspiration. So who was your inspiration?
Well, my father was in the Senate. He was very blunt, very outspoken. Khan Abdul Wali Khan, who was like a grandfather to us, who I used to call Baba. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. We saw these were people of principle who stood up for what they believed in, who weren't afraid to suffer because of their beliefs. You know that if you look at Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan's life, I think it's 1 out of every 3 days of his life he spent in prison. And yet he didn't waver from what he believed in. The same was true of Baba Khan Abdul Wali Khan. My father too spent a lot of time in prison because of his political beliefs. I remember being here, and I was doing some computer courses at, and I was in class, and I got a message, and I said, oh my God, my father's in prison again. And they said, oh, for what? Because over here you automatically presume, prison with criminal activity. But back home, a lot of it is with political activity.
So how would you see that a lot of Pakistanis I see, especially when they move to another diaspora, like in Canadian system, and you indulge yourself into your politics and social system. So how I don't see them impeded as they should be seeing the bigger picture. What is your vision about that? That how should it be justified with Canadian responsibilities having the background baggage with you?
Well, you know, when I see, I'm out in the community. I do a lot of events with the community, and I feel that we haven't taken our rightful place in Canadian society. We go to work, we come home, and then we just kind of mix with, you know, the Pukhtuns will mix with Pukhtuns, the Punjabis are mixing with Punjabis. Though, you know, I mean, we do the larger Pakistani family meets too. We haven't gotten involved in politics, and I can't be too hard on them for that, because, you know, when you immigrate to a country, everything is new. You're trying to establish yourself, and, you know, you're looking at basic necessities that you need. You know, you're looking at putting food on the table, a roof over the house, and the children's education. And politics is something that comes later. And I am happy to see that for the past few years, we're having a lot of people who do put their names forward, but then there's no planning in it. I think the community needs to plan that they will put one candidate forward. But because if you have 3-4 candidates, and as it has happened in Mississauga, where normally you had 3 Pakistanis running, and you know, each of them got 200 votes, and the person who got 400 votes became the candidate. So we need to sit and support each other, and we need to think of the bigger picture. And you know, politics is not for everyone, but whatever we do, we need to, you know, do the best that we can. We need to realize that we are ambassadors, and if one of us does something, it kind of reflects on the whole community. We need to be careful about what we say, what we do.
Very well said. What is needed, the baggage I was talking is the similar, as you have explained very well, that we are Pakhtuns, we are Punjabis, we are Sindhis, but we are least bothered about, once we are into Canadian politics, we are Canadians. Our first priority is being Canadian, but yes, we are ambassadors to take initiative to do the best we can do around the world for us. So how do you see that division is making people not understand that the bigger picture holds different realities than the realities they are fighting with the system?
I think part of that is we're not, like, when I got involved in politics, I had a lot of media coverage, newspapers, TV, radios. I was out there, but I was surprised at the amount of people who did not know that I was involved in politics, because somehow we don't seem to follow what's happening in mainstream Canada. We have come here, but like I say, we have not truly integrated, and that's why I always encourage people. I don't tell anyone that get out, get a job, do the. I say, you know, there's so many ways that you can be involved in Canada. You know, Canada has a magnificent tradition of being a volunteer. Get out there and volunteer an hour, 2, 3 hours. You know, you'll feel better. You will realize that you truly fit in Canada. You will realize there's more to life than, you know, what is happening in your household. You can grow as a person. You can realize what the issues are. And I think it's a great boost for the confidence also. So, you know, our men do get out, but there's a lot of our women who do not get out, who do not work, and they don't really take the benefit of what Canada has to offer them.
So lately we were having very controversy over the Conservative Party, which is right now proving itself to be the best capable of handling the situation as it is worldwide and especially in Canada. So we are having very much resentment from understanding the bills and all those political issues. What is your commentary about that?
And I had this conversation with a young girl on Sunday who walked up to me at an event and said, I've been told that if I go back to Pakistan and there's an act of terrorism in Pakistan to which I might not have anything to do with, just because I happen to be in Pakistan, I will not be able to come back. And I said, who told you that? I said, that's not true. So I think it's our duty as Canadians to look at the bills, to study them and see what is there. Take the time to find out for yourself, because you know one person will say something and then that's just carried around. And you can always walk up to your member of parliament and ask him to explain what the bills are. So I know there's been some issues, but you know, you have to take the time. Again, it comes back to being a Canadian. You know, this is your country. We chose to come here. We chose to live here. We choose to bring our, you know, children here, and they're Canadian citizens. And there's that great disconnect between the young kids and the parents. We need to be more involved, and you know, in issues that affect us.
Don't you think that the youth is the asset for any country? So while we are talking about our youth, what do you think is the problem, main problem of not being able to see, because they are grown up and they are raised into a system which is providing them everything, then why it is always not a very positive result taken into the Canadian system?
I feel and I see it that a lot of our youth are leading double lives. You know, there's something else at home and something else outside, and there's that huge communication gap between parents and children, and that stems from us not understanding the reality that the children face when they go into universities, when they go into schools, and when they go into high schools. We're not aware of it, and it comes back to us not being part of, you know, Canadian society as a whole. We sometimes I will talk to women, I will talk to mothers who will discuss with me the issues that their children face, and I find that they really don't know what's happening. And I think if you talk to, you know, a lot of the people, they will tell you that sometimes the fathers will go into the schools, very rarely are the mothers involved, while it's the mothers who are bringing up the children. And that's why when I stress, you know, whether it's education or whether it's involvement, where the mothers need to be involved. You know, I mean, the parents do, but more so the mother, because it's the mother who's looking after all this, and she has to have an understanding of Canadian society. So there's this parallel double life that's going on. The children are one thing at home, and there's something else when they go outside, because the children's reality is different from our reality.
So when we talk about our ethnic problems and our community problems, so how far do you think that the responsibility is always through the media and the people who are leading? So when these issues come, are we not working properly, or we are not doing what we should be supposed to do?
I think it's a bit of both. The media can only do so much. They can send a message out, but people have to hear it, people have to read it, people have to watch it. Sometimes I find people, you know, and I mean, this is not a criticism. It's very, very difficult, you know, to uproot yourself and to come to a different country, a different environment, a different cultural, you know, environment. So you're so caught up in so many things and just trying to establish yourself, fit yourself in, that sometimes the message is lost. But the media plays a very, very important role. Media molds, you know, people's views and people's understanding. So one has to, the media has to, especially the ethnic media, has to play a very positive role. Whereas we are very hard on each other and we criticize whoever, you know, will say something. We should not be afraid of looking inward and looking at ourselves and saying, is there a problem with us? Maybe there is. Maybe I need to step outside my comfort, you know, zones and look at the issues.
Since you are into Canadian Senate and you are a senator for quite a long time now, so what is your vision? How do you see that being a Canadian senator, what you are going to bring to different from any other person to contribute into Canadian system?
Well, you see, being a visible minority in the Senate, there's quite a few of us. If you look at the Senate of Canada right now, it's the most diverse Senate that we have ever had. I think partly because of the vision that the Prime Minister had, Prime Minister Harper has appointed senators from a lot of ethnic backgrounds. We have Korean, we have Vietnamese, we have Filipino, there's myself from Pakistan, there was an Indian senator who retired. And we all, while like I represent Canada and the Canadian community, but I think we are all sort of chosen to represent the communities we're from. Like when I was appointed, the Prime Minister said he wanted to bring a Muslim voice into the caucus. And I'm very aware of that responsibility on my shoulders, that I represent the Muslims and I represent, you know, the Canadians of Pakistani origin, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And I'm very aware of the issues that we face and how they have to be handled and how easy it is to be misunderstood. And I make sure that I represent, you know, everyone. I mean, the whole of Ontario, the whole of Canada, you know, to the best of my ability.
Yes. But when we talk about Muslims, then it becomes another bigger picture. Because if we are representing Muslims, it's a we are not only the Pakistanis who are Muslims. Muslims are all around the world. So when we are doing that, so the issue becomes even more and more responsible. It carries more and more responsibilities for you. So how do you see you can handle that contrast?
Well, you know, like I always remind my colleagues that Muslims are not newcomers to Canada. If you look at the first census that was ever held in Canada, I think it was 1867, they had Muslims here already. So, you know, we're what, 1.2 million Muslims in Canada. Unfortunately, recently there has been some issues, but the majority of the Muslims are, you know, law-abiding Canadians, and I think that is recognized by all the parties, that is recognized by the government of Canada. And you know, they just want to get on with their lives. And sometimes I am asked, you know, if some of my colleagues have to go to certain Muslim events, they do ask me what's the proper thing to do. And I think all of us in public life, we do carry that burden of being Muslims sometimes when something happens and we wish that it wasn't Muslims who had done that. I think that's not true just of politicians, but I think it's true of every Muslim.
So what do you think, if you have to explain, since your study is and your experience into it is very vast, so what is the core point where Muslims are being the reason for so many things which all other Muslims have to carry?
I think part of it is that we don't hear the good news stories, we hear the bad news stories. There's a lot of Muslims who are doing a lot of good works, and we need to hear about that. I mean, if you look at our youngsters, what they're doing, so that message needs to come, you know, be brought forward. And also, as a community, we don't have to own the deeds. You know, when Muslims do, people are people. There's a lot of people who do a lot of things, but somehow the mainstream media will never put their religion there. When it's a Muslim, the religion is mentioned. I mean, if you look at what's happening, you know, anywhere, and what has happened consistently over time, if it's a Muslim, it says Muslim, you know, did this. So I think there's that certain awareness which needs to be, and certain boundaries that media needs to set upon themselves. And I'm talking here about mainstream media.
So what are your difficulties and your achievements in your path which you have successfully handling?
You know, my success, I will leave to the community to judge me on what has been my success. I try and represent, you know, my religion, my culture, Canada to the best of my ability. I have done a lot of work that I'm very proud of. You know, I currently head the Interparliamentary Union, the IPU, which predates League of Nations. I have done great work with them on their maternal file. You know, did a report for them which became a landmark resolution. Some of my work in the Human Rights Committee, where I'm deputy chair now, I was the one who sponsored the bill on cyberbullying, which became, we looked at it before it was a big issue in Canada. We came out with, you know, handbooks for parents and for teachers. We get so many requests for that. We've sent it overseas. You know, so some of that stuff that I've done. For me, the biggest thing I find is that a lot of people, when they look at me, specifically some of my own community, we get caught up in the small things, and I will get on my Facebook page a lot of cover your head, and you know, I am not saying that it's wrong for people who do cover their head, but it's, you know, it's a personal choice. And when I read the Quran, it says dress modestly, and I think I dress very modestly. We shouldn't be so taken in with appearances. We should be judged by what we do, what our intentions are. We're too caught up in the physics, in what you're seeing. It's all visual. I mean, covering my head does not make me a better Muslim, and I'm by no way criticizing those who do. I mean, I respect them for standing up for what they believe in. You know, but look at my work, comment on my work sometimes. Don't just, you know.
Yeah, but it's very interesting thing that I always say that connectivity to God is very personal. It's how I feel about that is my personal experience and my personal, since I was grown up little in a very Muslim atmosphere, and I always used to say I have direct contact with God. Nobody is allowed to talk about that. So when we come through that procedure, I don't know where these details of judging others come to. So yes, coming back to your professional contribution, I see you as Salma Ataullahjan, the Senator of Canada. And when I see your contribution, what would you feel, what would you like to tell to the community and the bigger community, bigger home, the Canadian people, what your observations and how we can bring better society together?
Well, I think it's in the work we do, like I mentioned, you know, the cyberbullying, it was something that affected our youth. I was motivated by a young, you know, person's suicide, a 14-year-old, because of the cyberbullying he had to endure, and I thought this is something we need to look at. We brought young people into the Senate of Canada, which was the first where we had them as witnesses without the staff. It was just the senators with the parents. You know, my study on the garment workers, which was inspired by a visit to Bangladesh, where I asked if I could go to Rana Plaza, and we looked at the rights of the Bangladesh, you know, women and the workers specifically, and that is becoming a bigger study. We're looking at, you know, in foreign affairs, we looked at trade and security. So there are many issues. Some of the best work that the Senate does is done in the committees, and we try and do stuff which will benefit Canada. That's our foremost goal, is that I am responsible to the Canadian people. I work for them, and whatever I do should better their lives or should benefit Canada.
So who is the political personality in Canada which inspires you the most?
Well, if I say the Prime Minister, then people will say she's sucking up. But, you know, Prime Minister, Jason Kenney. I have worked closely with Jason, and I have seen how I mean, I don't know anybody else who fits in as many events in 24 hours as Jason does. And the outreach that he has done to the ethnic community has been, it's been landmark. It's changed, you know, the political game in Canada. You know, he works non-stop. He's willing to listen to you. I've seen him greet everyone. The Prime Minister, no matter what the press says, is when you meet him, he is family oriented. He's very humble, very easy to talk to, and very, very respectful. And you know, and those are the qualities I admire, that people who are at the top of their profession, who have done so well, yet they haven't lost their touch. And some of my colleagues in the Senate, I mean, Senator Nikki Eaton, the work that she does, you know, and how she represents herself and how she carries herself. Our speakers, you know, there's a lot of people. Senator Nancy Ruth, who's so committed to women's issues. So if you look at the Senate, there's some really incredible people there who do a lot of incredible work, who I am honored to work alongside with.
Salma, if you're given a chance to do something, what would you like to do?
Me, I would like to, are we talking the world, Pakistan, Canada, what?
However, whatever, you're given a chance to do one thing which you really want to do, which is your passion towards, what it would be?
For me, it would be to improve the lot of the women, especially in KPK. The stories I hear, what the women have to endure, brings me to tears.
Yeah, it's the throughout the world that the women, gender discrimination and all that is a big issue. And besides, the less educational and economically safe the countries, the more the problems are there. So I thank you very much for being here with us today. Viewers, you have seen her views and her concerns. Canada is a beautiful country with a very, very tremendously intelligent leadership. Yes, Mr. Harper has shown it with his resume and his experience that he is a guy who has a vision. Jason Kenney personally is my favorite because I found him that he's the guy who understands the depth of reality, but he knows how to work. We all need to learn from the people around us, those who are working for us, giving us room. We need to come and show that yes, we acknowledge it and we have the capacity and capability of working with them. Nobody knows what future brings to us, but we need to work together as a system, as a society, to strengthen each other so that we can all enjoy a better future. As Salma said, our kids are here. We want to see a better future for them. We want to have a better contribution to this society with the rising of our kids. With these words, please do consider to see what people are doing and how much this country offers to us. With these words, I am your host Haleema and thank you for watching.